Hey dudes, what's up? My name is Mark, and this is REDRAW, a series where I am redrawing all of my childhood Robot Master drawings from Mega Man, and seeing how long I can put up with myself until I go crazy. So, yeah. In case you're wondering, this is part 8 of what will eventually become 30 um, videos where I show my process of drawing each Robot Master. I'm going in the order of which I drew them in my original sketchbook from many years ago. And this time is going to be a little different comparatively. So, if you're unaware, I've been breaking up this challenge into sets of 8 drawings because that is the typical amount that you would see in a proper Mega Man game. So I'm divvying things up that way to sort of avoid creative burnout and just so I can keep things fresh with each drawing going forward. So yeah. So right now this is part 8, and this is gonna be the last one for this first set. And as you can see, this guy's a little different compared to what the original drawing was. I drew this guy called Ninja Man, and well, the thing is that Ninja Man, you know, upon looking on him first glance, he looked very similar to an already existing Robot Master called Shadow Man, who I believe was in Mega Man 3. And I mean, you know, as a kid, you're kind of just, a lot of the drawings you do are you know, you're just copying the cool things that you see. So clearly Ninja Man, if you see a picture of Shadow Man, he's very similar. They both have similar getups, and they both have like shurikens and stuff. So pretty much I just decided from the get-go, I didn't want to retread ground like that. I wanted to make something wholly original. So kind of like Gear Man, which was the first drawing of this whole challenge. I decided to give him like a complete makeover, although this time for a completely different reason. So I decided to kind of rethink his whole concept entirely, and this is definitely the drawing that I had the most creative liberty with, just because I kind of allowed myself to just start from scratch, whereas the other ones, I tried to retain some kind of characteristics, at least. So they could somewhat resemble, I guess, what I was originally going for with my original drawings. But this guy, I just didn't want to make Shadow Man again. So I decided I was gonna give myself a little bit of leeway and just start fresh. And I definitely did still want to keep the spirit of what the original character was in some way. So I decided to go with this guy called Sunset Man. And instead of a ninja, I decided to go and make him kind of like a Ronin type character. There was a samurai character in Mega Man 6, I'm pretty sure, Yamato Man. But he's like a proper samurai, so I didn't want to go that route either and kind of just completely ape off that concept. So I decided to go with something a little different. Yeah, I mean, he's still kind of a samurai, but, you know, Ronins are kind of like wandering. They're more like wandering samurai, I guess, you know, wear a lot of rags and stuff. And I thought that could be that was kind of my basis going forward with this guy was, you know, you see robot masters, you see all the designs of Mega Man games, and they're very mechanical. Like, they're very just you could tell like their limbs are very segmented. They're all made of metal and stuff like that. So I'm like, I guess the main drive going forward with this one was like, what if I just gave this guy some clothes, like some proper clothes? So that was kind of the main inspiration for this. So I decided to make him a Ronin. And why is he a Ronin, you might ask? Well, that's a good question. I kind of decided that I wanted him to originally, in universe, he was created to be a sort of, I guess, historical reenactment robot. So I imagine he's probably some sort part of some sort of, I don't want to say theme park, but I guess some sort of historical society that does reenactments. Like, kind of like, like you go to in the US, you go to like Virginia or something. They have like a bunch of Civil War reenactments, kind of like that. But this guy was created to specifically be a an actor to represent a certain time period of Japan where Ronin existed, and that's kind of what he was created for, kind of like historical, educational. Obviously, he looks a little funny just because I wanted to make him a Mega Man Robot Master, but it's all good, in good fun anyway. So yeah, I that was kind of the direction I went with, and I was like, let me give him some proper like rags to wear and kind of make him look a little more human in a sense. So that's kind of what I did. And there were obviously some aspects of the original design that I wanted to keep and carry over. I liked the face covering, so I decided to keep that. And I figured, from what I understand of Ronin, they're typically, they keep a low profile anyway, or they kept a low profile. I mean, I'm no expert. I'm certainly no history buff, especially when it comes to world history, but I think that's the case when it comes to them. So I decided, hey, it kind of works out. He wears the face mask as like a way to keep a low profile and kind of look hidden in a sense. Same thing with the hat. A lot of them wore hats. I looked up pictures and drawings and stuff of what they typically looked like, and yeah, a lot of rags, a lot of layers. That was something I definitely wanted to emphasize. Just the amount of layers that they wore, a lot of robes and cloths, and that was pretty much the driving force behind that, and yeah, that's kind of what I went with, and I think it kind of all came together in the end too, because I believe, if I understand correctly, Ronin wore kind of samurai without a purpose. Like they were, I think they were samurai that didn't have anyone to serve anymore, so that's why they became wanderers. So I figured, hey, that works pretty well for a Mega Man villain, because all those characters are kind of, the purpose is a big theme in these games. So I figured it'd be interesting. Like, maybe this guy was about to be decommissioned, maybe he was kind of going out of vogue, he was becoming outdated, that he wasn't being used for his original purpose to showcase being a Ronin anymore. So because of that, he was basically, left without purpose. And then I guess Dr. Wily would come along and make him repurpose him to have a purpose. So, and that's what he is now. And I decided to go for something a little different. I still kind of retained some of the mechanical stuff. This probably would be like him being modified or whatever, but I was originally going to give him like a proper like katana, like the original Ninja Man drawing had, but I thought it'd be really cool to kind of emphasize the fact that he's a robot and kind of build it into his arm. And I imagine that's probably like a Wily modification, where he has this blade. It's almost like I almost kind of drew it like a cleaver, and it kind of like extends from his arm in a sense. So like it retracts when he's not using it, and then it kind of extends out, and he holds it by the blade. Yeah, I guess kind of like if kind of like a hidden blade from Assassin's Creed. So that was kind of where that went. I think I could have done a little bit of a better job with just how the blade looks and the way it's laid into his arm. It looks a little awkward, but you know, it came to a point where I'd spent a lot of time on this drawing, and I kind of just wanted to move forward and just not spend so much time on it anymore. I was starting to get tired of it, so I just kind of just let it be as it was, and start focusing on everything else. And, you know, it's again carrying the drastic different themes between these robot masters. The last guy, Psyman, was like super simple in design. He was just boxes and cubes, and this guy, back to crazy detail, kind of like Beastman, where he's just got all these little wrinkles and textures on his look. And I spent a lot of time with that, as well as the color. And let me tell you, the color I went kind of crazy about. I just didn't know really what this guy should be. I mean, I definitely wanted to have his color evolve, you know, considering the name. I wanted to have his colors definitely evoke that of sunsets. And the reason why I did that is because, named him that, is because from what I learned, I think a lot of Ronin, I mean, they keep a low profile, and a lot of them are just depicted in sunsets. They're kind of like, you know, Eastern cowboys, from what I understand. Cowboys are always depicted riding in the sunsets. It's kind of a loose interpretation, so hopefully nobody gets too mad at me for my inaccuracies with this. I was just trying to have fun. I thought Sunset Man was a cool name, honestly, and was a little more metaphorical, I guess. Whereas a lot of the names of the robot masters in Mega Man are very literal. So I decided to make this guy a little more metaphorical. But yeah, the colors I struggled with, definitely. I tried, I was like all completely set on using these sort of dark blues with light blues, and then these reddish oranges. And because I was like, oh, you know, because that'll really make things pop out, and it's not really common. Like reddish orange, or like even orange in general, is not a common color that's really used in this series, I see that much. So I thought it would be cool, but I end up kind of struggling a bit with just making things look cohesive enough. This is definitely probably the drawing that I felt the most scatterbrained with when it came to the color composition. The other drawings, I felt like for the most part, I had a pretty clear idea. I mean, Beastman was a little bit hairy. Funny. Beastman was a little bit difficult with that, but I kind of, you know, I stumbled a little early on with it, but then I kind of caught myself, and I started grooving from there. But this guy, up until like I fully colored, you know, did the original coloring, I kept changing it. Like the color of his pants, his feet, you know, which I tried to imitate as like sandals, which I thought was a pretty unique look for a Mega Man character. You know, his face mask, even all the robes, like himself, like that he wears. I just I think everything changes at one point or another in terms of which colors I try to determine. Um, and I end up going for a sort of paler orangey yellow in the end, which I think worked out um, overall. I think that the reddish orange that I was using was a little too bright and obnoxious. And in the end, I think the decisions that the choices that I made with the color were probably better off with how they ended up in the end. I try not to get too crazy obnoxious with the color composition. I try to um, really limit myself to a few colors per design. You know, a main color, complementary colors, and then like little detail, I guess tertiary colors. I don't know if that's the proper term for that, but um, and I even go back and you know edit his design a little bit. I was all over the place with this guy. He definitely took me a little bit longer than the other ones just because I really wanted to make him look as final as he could because for a while I just felt like his design looked so unfinished and I don't know. I part of me is happy with how it came out but part of me feels like maybe I could have done a little bit more. I'm a little unsure about this guy, but I will say at least the colors I think ended up turning out for the better. I think they flow a lot better, and I ended up using more of the sort of beige that's yellowish beige that's on his straw hat, um, kind of putting it into his shoulder pads and like some of the wraps around his arms and his hands as well are kind of that tinted that color. Um, and I think that evokes well enough his deal and who he is. He's a little more serious. He's a little more serious. He does wear like semi-brightish colors, but he's got a little more of a serious demeanor. He's very like he's programmed to be what he is. Like he's programmed to be an actor. So he only knows that, I guess, what it is to be a Ronin, and which would probably make him really dangerous as an enemy, just because like he would know how to fight and all that. He's not kind of, I guess he wouldn't have to be that much repurposed to be a fighter as opposed to some of the other characters. So yeah, this was a very interesting route to take with this guy. This was quite the journey, and kind of like the last drawing that I did, I was looking at this guy and I was like initially and I was like, ugh, what the hell do I do with this? I'm not really sure. But that's kind of one of the most interesting parts I think about this challenge is that I really don't go in with a real plan or strategy. I just kind of like, go off the top of my head in a lot of ways and just take things from there and kind of let myself go with the flow. Um, which is how I did it, when I was a kid. That's how every kid does it when they draw. They're just drawing whatever's on their mind, and whatever comes out is how it comes out. And I kind of wanted to replicate that with this. Because when you kind of plan it out and like try to make like a when you try to plan it out and you try to make things work out a certain way, I feel like it kind of takes the fun out of drawing. Like part of the process of drawing I always found fun was just that sense of discovery in the process. You just don't know how things are going to turn out, really. You can try to influence it, but at least for me, I noticed the more I try to control it, the worse of a time I have with it, and usually the worse the drawing comes out. So I try my best to kind of let myself go and kind of just, follow the road that the drawing process takes me. and see if it goes from there. Sometimes it works out well, sometimes it doesn't work out quite as well. I think this guy kind of ended up in the middle. I don't think he's my favorite of the bunch, but I don't hate him either. And I do like how unique he came out as a Mega Man design. I don't think I've seen many characters that look like this, so I'll say that I'm proud of myself at least for that. Striving for something unique, especially considering how many Mega Man characters and bosses there are. It's hard to stay fresh and keep creative when there's so many designs that are kind of been there, done that, and even, you know, in several games they kind of, you know, double dip a little bit in terms of theming and scope. Like, there are so many fire and ice, different iterations of fire and ice bosses, and it's like, well, how far can you really go with that stuff? And I guess the answer is pretty far. So that was kind of that for me. I wanted to make something that really just stood out. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all I can say about this design and this process. I guess I will close things off here by saying that, as I said before, this is the last design of set 1 of this challenge. I'm planning on taking a break from this challenge for a little while, and then returning to it at some point. If you were watching this when this video comes out, it should be uploaded on New Year's Eve, so I kind of did that deliberately. I wanted to, I kind of figured that it would be really cool and appropriate to finish this first part of the challenge on the last day of the year and go into the new year fresh with that behind. That being said, shortly after this video, I do have a couple extra Mega Man related things on the horizon. One of them is related to this, just a little extra bit that I thought would be fun, and also something completely unrelated to this challenge, but also kind of related. If you've kept up with gaming news and news about Mega Man lately, you probably know what I'm talking about. So look forward to that, and yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to continuing this series and making things go further. I think with the next set, I've said before, I'm probably going to try to do a different art style. And you know, keep things, just as another way to keep things fresh. I think it'd be cool to kind of mimic, you know, a Mega Man game with each set, and kind of bring a distinct art style with each group of Robot Masters that I draw. So the next time you see this challenge, I will definitely be experimenting a little bit with the art style, and I try to do that anyway with a lot of the stuff I do. I try to just vary things up so things just don't become stagnant. I mean, even with this challenge, like, you know, doing the 8 Robot Masters, it did get to a point where things became a little formulaic for me, which I guess would make sense because a lot of these designs and the way I edit the videos together and stuff like that, they all go through a very similar process. But and while that, you know, sometimes familiarity is good, it makes these designs and these videos come out quicker and more efficiently. It also, you start to lose a little bit of that excitement factor because you are just kind of doing the same thing over and over again. And especially for somebody like me, I get bored and distracted very quickly. Um, so I kind of like to just vary things up and spice things up for me when it comes to drawing. I try to my best to sort of reach out of my comfort zone and, you know, uh, keep myself going in that regard. So, and I think I did that well enough for this challenge. It did become a little bit of an expected process after a while, but I think going forward, um, from beginning to end, I can definitely see some differences between the first drawing that I did and this current one. There's definitely a little bit more going on. There's some stuff that I did, and you can see in the final picture I added a little bit of a background graphic, a little kind of grungy painted sunset design. And part of that was just partially because there was a lot of negative space um, in the final picture portrait. So I just kind of wanted to fill that up. But I might do that more again with the other designs. I might give them a little background design that kind of shows a little bit more of their personality. Who knows? Like I said, I am going to take a break for a while and kind of come back refreshed. I want to work on animation a little more too. I don't want to keep neglecting that. And yeah, but that's pretty much it. That's Sunset Man. He's number 8. All 8 of this first set are now complete. And yeah, we still got however many left to go. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Again, if you're watching on New Year's, Happy New Year. Hopefully the new year will bring lots of exciting new ventures for all of us. And cheers to that. Anyway, catch you around. Stay tuned for whatever else comes next. Thanks for watching. Bye.